Hey, this is Pierre from Pierre Speaks, and I want to talk about the Golden Globes today. Let's get to it. Okay, so last night were the Golden Globes. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a big film aficionado. More specifically, I don't want to talk about the Golden Globes. I want to talk about Birth of a Nation and its absence from the Golden Globes. I thought this is pretty telling about Hollywood. And I will admit that I did not know that coming up to the show, that when the nominations were released some time ago, that Birth of a Nation was absent. Now, to give you some backstory, Birth of a Nation was the darling at the Sundance Film Awards. And it was the most sought after film in terms of money and what they paid for it. Actually, I believe it was the film that sold for the most at Sundance Film Festival. It also won the coveted awards, the Audience Award, and it won also I believe it's called the Grand Jury Award, which is for the overall best film at Sundance Film Festival. And these are great accolades to get. And so even before that, when the film first debuted, maybe some private view screenings or something like that, it got Oscar buzz based off of that. So with all this leading up to this, you want to go back to Nate Parker now. Nate Parker has been acting, he's been around acting for a while now. He's been in The Great Debaters, he was in Red Tails, he was in Pride. He's a fine actor. What's notable about Birth of a Nation is that he directed it, he played the leading role of Nat Turner, and he also worked on the screenplay with a friend of his. Going back, Nate Parker also attended Penn State University. And some 17 years ago, he was involved in some sort of sex abuse case he caught. He was eventually exonerated, and his friend was not. But at any rate, he was found to be not guilty and exonerated of these charges. Thing is that especially when it comes to anything that involves any sort of sexual misconduct, the accusation of it can almost be as worse than the actual act. And this is kind of what we're seeing now. As leading up to the film's debut and opening, Nate Parker was forced to answer all these questions about what transpired 17 years ago. And the crazy thing is, he's never had to do it before. He's never, with all these big openings in these other films, he's never really had to do this. So all of a sudden this comes out when he, it's the story of Nat Turner. He's writer, director, and star. And here's Hollywood right at the front. Well, why did this happen? How did this happen? What do you think about this? And it was unnerving to see him in videos have to answer these questions again after he's been exonerated. And they were more focused on these things than they were the film. Now, Nat Turner is a story that he's a figure that I've always heard about in my life, never knew much about because I didn't get any sort of edification of him in school at any level. And I think it's an important American story, and I think I want to dispel to all those people who complain about these slave narratives that we have in our film selections. I implore you to see this film because this is a part of American history. And I think the thing with slavery that a lot of black people do miss who complain about these things, I think one of the celebrities that was notable was Snoop. I also have a friend that claims he won't watch slave films. But the thing is, this event spanned 400 some odd years here. You have to think that when you have something so vast, there are going to be a whole lot of different tales to tell. And the thing is that when these films come out, the first thing that we see is, oh, we got to deal with slavery. We got another film depicting black people being under the boot of white people, being beat down and downtrodden. And while that may be the period, All of these stories are not the same, and they're not even depicting the same thing. 12 Years a Slave was different from Roots. Roots was different from Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation was different from 12 Years a Slave. These are vastly different films in the stories they depict. And again, the one constant is that it is in a period. I don't hear people complain about other period films or other types of films being made ad nauseum. I mean, a lot of times we're getting in the same film over and over again. I mean, these comic book films, I know that's the biggest thing going right now. I mean, that's even more vogue than the animated films at this point. And you're seeing comic book after comic book film, and really comic books they really tell the same story. Typically, it's usually the same story, but people are eating these up. I'm getting a little tired of them, but that's neither here nor there. Birth of a Nation is a film that should be seen. I also don't hear black people complain about films like Janky Promoters or Players Club or what's another one? Soul Plane. Films like these. Now, these films were entertaining in some regard, but I think I'm more liable to skip a film like that because it portrays tired stereotypes and tired generalized tropes that we're still trying to dispel today. And while there may be some entertainment value, I just can't sit and watch that over and over again. I would much rather see something that's going to edify me on a subject like Birth of a Nation and that Turner story that I've never had before. And that's why if I want to balance that, I mean, give me a film like Birth of a Nation over these other buffoonery films, I call them, any day. But so, here we go. Birth of a Nation is not, after being the darling of Sundance, and which I don't think I've ever heard of a film being the darling to not getting one nomination of a Golden Globe, not one. And that's really disturbing to me. Last year, there was a film, Beast of No Nation. It didn't win anything. I don't think it might have gotten nominated for a Golden Globe, but it's another film that to me was overlooked by a great performance by Idris Elba. This, for a different reason, is being overlooked, I think, because I think it is specifically Nate Parker's past that has pretty much derailed this film's buzz. And I think the agency of the Golden Globes, they should not be recognizing this in any kind of way. Nate Parker's story has no bearing on the historical importance of Nat Turner. None at all. So whatever you may think of Nate Parker should not affect the historical value or even the educational value or the entertainment value of seeing this film. It's a film that should be watched. And I think that does a disservice to every other actor involved and everyone else involved. And I don't think this film should have been absent from a Golden Globe nomination. I mean, a nomination at the very least. I just thought that's crazy to go from that much of a buzz to not even a nomination. I understand it didn't do well at the box office, but again, this can be attributed to some of this controversy involving Nate Parker some 17 years ago. What I also think is important to note is that back in the early 2000s, maybe 2002 or 2003, there's a film called The Pianist, and this was directed by Roman Polanski. This film won 3 awards at the Oscars, and I believe it was nominated for some Golden Globes. Roman Polanski, if you don't know, is, I want to say, I can't remember his country of origin, but it's a European country. And he was accused at some point while he was in America of having a sexual relationship with a minor. And so what he wound up doing is just fleeing the country. Still allowed to make films. I guess there's no extradition laws where he is, but he's still been allowed to make films and still profit and receive awards. He won Best Director that year. And that blows my mind. So this is something that was proven. A man who fled and was never even on trial or gone through our judicial system. And this is a white male. And he is continually lauded. And no one says anything. And it's no big deal. But here we have a young black filmmaker, one of the few, who comes in and makes and puts on the screen a story that we all need to see, and a story that is very provocative and compelling. And I find it a travesty that he was not nominated, or this film was not nominated for not one Golden Globe category. It's a shame. So again, I implore you to, if you haven't seen it, rent, buy Birth of a Nation. I bought it. And, watch it with an open mind and understanding what you're seeing is history. Just like a film like Lincoln or John Adams or let's take even on Broadway, Hamilton. You're seeing a similar depiction. Give this film a chance. And I ask you, did you not judge Nate Parker because he's already been judged and exonerated? So, what do you think? If you saw Birth of a Nation, how did you feel about the film? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why or why not? I'd like to speak to you about it. Please let me know. So, if you also like this video and my content, please hit a thumbs up or mash that big red button on the bottom, and this will give me support for my future videos. This is Pierre again for Pierre Speaks, and it's been great talking to you. I'll see you.